Now let's talk about the chain rule. Chain rule is a really important rule that you guys are going to want to have a good grip on. You guys are going to be using it a lot over the year, and we're basically saying that if we have a function, f of x, that's a function of a function, so we have f of g of x, the derivative is going to be the derivative of the first function times the derivative of the second function. And the first function, it's going to be the derivative with respect to the second function. So we're basically going to imagine that our second function is x, and well, you'll see in later videos when next video I'm going to do some practice. But for now, I just want to prove this. So the derivative of f of x, we're just going to use the definition of a derivative again. So the limit as h approaches 0 of f of g of x plus h minus f of g of x all over h. And once again, I'm going to do some tricky math stuff. So I'm going to multiply and divide by g of x plus h minus g of x. So let's see how that looks like. So the limit as h approaches 0 of f of g of x plus h minus f of g of x. And now we're going to divide by g of x plus h minus g of x. And now we have to multiply by g of x plus h minus g of x because we don't want to be changing this expression. And then we tag along that divided by h. And the great thing about limits is that we can split them up, so we can take the limit of this and the limit of that separately. But for the first term, I'm going to be changing the what the limit's going to be. So instead of the limit as h approaches 0, I'm going to take the limit as g of x plus h approaches g of x. So it's pretty much the same thing because that's just saying that h is approaching 0. But I'm writing it differently so that you guys can see what this looks like after I write it out. So then we have g of x plus h minus g of x, or minus f of g of x plus h minus f of g of x over g of x plus h minus g of x times the limit as, and this one's just going to stay normal, of g of x plus h minus g of x all over h. Notice that this first term, it kind of looks like the limit as x approaches a of f of x minus f of a all over x minus a, where x is equal to x plus h, g of x plus h, and a is equal to g of x. So what this means is that this is the definition of the derivative of f of g of x. So that step seems a bit confusing, but just imagine substituting, instead of this g of x plus h, every time you see a g of x and a g of x, imagine that as simply x, as a, I'm sorry. Every time you see a g of x plus h, imagine that as an x. So this is a and this is x. So then we have an f of x minus f of a all over x minus a, and it's the limit as x approaches a. So what we're saying is that this is the derivative of f prime of a. Okay? And then the second term, well, that's the easier one. That's the definition of the derivative of g of x, and that's in, the notation that we are used to seeing derivatives as. So right there we just proved the chain rule. In the next video I'm going to be doing some practice chain rule problems.